Today we're going to unwrap, tie in, and playtest a prototype Hagen leather bag. Stay tuned. Well, hello everybody, I'm Matt Willis Bagpiper, and on this channel I make videos to make you a stronger and more confident piper. If you like this kind of content, please think about liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that bell icon to be notified of when I post new videos. I also teach Skype and online lessons, but more on that later. All right everybody, I have here a new prototype Hagen leather bag, and I don't know much about it except that we get to test it out today, and so let's not waste any time and get to unwrapping this. Can't exactly call it a box when it's not in a box. So it's in some sort of vacuum sealed package, which is kind of interesting. Want to make sure I'm not cutting the bag. Now we're getting into it. Oh man, oh wow! I didn't expect this. Some leather drone cords. Those look amazing. All right, there might be another review on these. I didn't expect that. Presents. Mr. Hagen, thank you so much. All right, let's keep going and see what we have here. All right. All right, so we have a Hagen leather bag with some integrated hose clamps that have been protected on the outside. That's nice. Very good. And I should note, I already had some Hagen honey-based tea tree oil seasoning here that we're going to be using when we get this all put together. But this is definitely a slightly new design on the bag here. I like the integrated hose clamps and protection on them. So, very cool. And what are we going to be tying in today? We're going to be going with the RG00 pipes here. These were previously just in a synthetic bag, but I'd like to hear and feel how they play in a bag. And this is a special cowhide bag that is been specially tanned to more mimic sheepskin. So we'll see how that all works out. But it feels, it's got a stiffness to it that I like. It definitely has that white kind of look. So we're going to play with it and see what happens. All right, so it does also come with a little vial of lubricant. We are going to put some lubricant on here. So it's already got grommets. We're just going to put a little drop of the lubricant on both the stock and the grommet. Nice and slippery. Just going to hold that there. There we go. And move that around on the inside. Make sure this is all lubricated on the outside here, and we're going to press it in. Now, we may well have to put this on a table. We shall see. These hardy stocks are no joke. They're pretty big. So, he recommends putting it on a table and pressing straight down. Now, we'll see if my tray table here is up for the challenge. So I have the base drone stock in. It did take me putting it on the floor. Now I do have a rug right here. It's nice and soft, so I wasn't worried about hurting this, but I did have to put this kind of ferrule down and press the bag onto it and use maybe a little bit more force than you might think. I also backed off the hose clamp just a little bit. You can use a screwdriver, but lately I've actually been using a socket on a screwdriver handle. This is a little safer, not as likely to puncture or poke the leather. In this case, it is an 8mm. Yes, it's an 8mm socket on here to do these. Now I'm going to go ahead and just tighten this up a bit before we even move on to the next one. And again, I'm just tightening it up till it's somewhat snug. I can make it tighter later, kind of during the seasoning process, but I don't want to overly tighten the grommets or clamps. If you overly tighten that, it could actually cause ripples that could cause some air to leak out. Like if you cinch a belt, you know, you have a large pair of pants, you put it on with a belt, it's not going to necessarily fit well. Some lubrication above and below the grommet. Put that right there. Got the 3 drone stocks in now. The outside took a little bit more work than the others. I think some of that has to do with the hardy design of the stock right here, where you see there's quite a lot past the groove. So I actually think it was kind of interfering when I was pressing in, so I had to kind of angle the bag a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. And just gonna tighten the hose clamp till it's snug, but not crazy tight. All right, and now moving on to the blowpipe. And while this vial of lubricant is small, it appears to have plenty. Put this down for a second, and again, I'm gonna back off the hose clamp just a little bit to make sure that that is not the limiting factor in trying to get any of this stuff through. Not backing it off too much. I don't want it to actually kind of come undone. That one went in just fine. Go ahead and tighten that down just a little bit till it's snug. There we go. And then the chanter stock opening. And these are stitched into the leather as well right now. Again, we're going to back that off a little bit. If this is the first time you're ever tying into a bag or watching a video on it or any of that, one thing you need to know about these stocks is that the blowpipe stock is the shortest one. The chanter is the next shortest. Then you have the 2 tenors and the base. Don't mix them up as you're putting them in. I'm actually going to take the entire hose clamp off of this one. It was about to come off anyway, and that gives me a little bit more control to try to put this chanter stock in. So this is a bit unusual, but kind of cool if it works. I haven't ever had a grommet for the blowpipe stock. I've always had to tie that in on a leather bag, and even on a synthetic bag, there was typically like an O-ring you had to put in. That lubricant's nice and slippery. It's making it hard to grab onto things. All right, I'm pressing this down until the top of the, this is a gray grommet here, until the top of the grommet is level with the ridge on the bottom of the stock here. Looks like that needs to be loosened a little bit more to get on. It doesn't look like it's going to go on any further than that, and the neck is fairly short. So it's leaving a little bit more chanter stock exposed than I'm used to seeing, but I'm not sure that matters. But these fully enclosed hose clamps are very nice. I like thinking that, you know, I'm not going to be really hurting the leather or the wood or any part of my pipes by having these on there. So, okay, and then again, I'm going to tighten till snug, but not going crazy. And then I'm going to grab some stoppers, and we're going to see if this thing is in any way airtight with just the stocks in. And it's got a nice little kind of logo on there. Looks great. So we'll be back in just a minute. We've got the whole thing attached. We got a blowpipe in here. We got a valve in here. We have the whole thing corked up. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour in some of the Hagen bagpipe seasoning. Now, this is a tea tree oil and honey-based seasoning that he makes for his bags here. And before I started, I actually shoved a bit of paper towel down each of the stocks here. It's kind of like half of a piece, or, you know, the create your own size piece. There's one of those. So it's like the rectangle. Put it lengthwise into the base. I put it sideways into these other two and kind of crumpled it down into there. That's going to go a long way to keeping your stocks clean when you're done seasoning it and not having to scrub them out. The drone stocks are a little bit long, so that could be kind of a pain. So I got some of the Hagen seasoning here. I'm just going to pour it into the bag. I'm going to pour about, I don't know, a quarter of this bottle. Probably end up using all of it, but who knows, maybe not. Start getting that seasoning all around in here. Making sure the seasoning is getting all through the leather here. So you see I'm kind of massaging it in. Feeling for the dry areas. We want to try to get this into all of the nooks and crannies and crevices that we can. That's making an enormous difference. Look at this. We got the bag. This one's nice and slender. It's like an extended small, maybe. And I do not expect a bag to necessarily be airtight after the very first time it's seasoned. This needs to set up and get into all the pores and do its stuff. So I'm going to actually gently vent the seasoning here. You don't want to get a bunch of seasoning on you. Not that this is hot like the Hardee's airtight or anything, but still, it's under pressure. You don't need to get tea tree oil and beeswax fluid in your eyes. Now that it's mostly empty, be a little bit easier to kind of massage it around. And again, I'm feeling as best I can try to get into the welt, but it's clearly not leaking out of any one particular place. So I bet there's just a dry bit of leather on here that I need to get some seasoning on. And being that it's tea tree based with the honey, both of those things together are antimicrobial, so he says you can reuse it. I normally don't do that, but I only have one jar of this stuff, and so we're gonna go ahead and reuse it. I'm gonna drain this here in a second and let it sit overnight, and we'll come back to it tomorrow and see how it's doing. I wanna give the seasoning a good little bit of time to do all of the things it needs to do. Get into the pores, seal them up. Yeah, seasoning stuff. So we're back now with the Hagen Leather Bag. This thing has now been fully seasoned. I went ahead and seasoned it 3 times with the provided honey tea tree oil seasoning that I had from Hagen, and then I used all that up. So I did one more seasoning with some Hardy's Airtight. It was really very close with the Hagen. I have a feeling one more with that would have worked too. But in any case, I went with some Hardy's Airtight at the very end, and the bag is now tight as a drum, feeling great. So I have the RG00 pipes here with some Melvin cane reeds and an infinity chanter, and we're going to give this thing a go and just see how it performs. I have yet to strike this up in this bag, so this will be a first for everybody. They were in tune in the last bag, so fingers crossed, maybe they'll be close when I strike them in now. Guys, I'm very pleased with this bag. The strike-ins are going well. The cutoffs are going well. I'm going to give it some time. I'm going to play it for a good little bit here and come back with my opinions on moisture. But I definitely want to give some opinions just upon initial strike-in and playability. It's stable. I think the top hand has a nice, thick, rich sound that you're going to typically get out of a hide bag. There is a bit of stiffness to this that gives it a bit of a different feel than your standard cowhide. That being said, the last time I played a cowhide bag was probably an L&M most recently. So a pretty old and fairly supple cowhide bag. I'd like to actually do a head-to-head with this next to, say, a Ganaway when it comes to the stiffness. But at the moment, I don't have any Ganaways in my life, so that'll just have to wait. But yeah, I am pretty pleased with this Hagen Leather bag. So I'm going to give it a good little bit of playing, and we'll come back and give you some opinions on what it's doing with moisture control. All right, after a good solid, I'd say 45 minutes of playing or so, I have to say I've had no issues with any sort of moisture building up on anything. Now, that being said, I do have cane drone reeds in here right now. So they're going to do a little bit better with some extra moisture than, say, non-cane. But I like the idea of a hide bag here, some cane reeds, everything else, but I didn't have any standing water in and around the top of the chanter, around the reed or anything else. So when it comes to moisture control, it's certainly doing an adequate job. Now, I'm not the wettest blower in the world, not the driest blower in the world either. It's kind of right down the middle. On a synthetic bag with the same amount of time, I'd likely have some moisture on the top of the chanter. I did not experience that with this Hagen bag right here. There you go, everybody. The new Hagen bag, it's got a nice feel to it. The tie-in process was a little bit unusual, trying to get the stocks into the grommets, but way faster than a traditional tie-in. And the channer here had its own grommet, which was fantastic, so you didn't have to do a traditional channer tie-in. So the tie-in process was good. Moisture control seems good. Strike-ins are great. Cutoffs are great. To be completely realistic, if there's a downside, it is the seasoning process. It took 3 seasonings with the provided seasoning, and at that point, I was actually out of seasoning and had to go to some Hardee's Airtight. That said, on the 4th seasoning, it was just fine. I've now had the opportunity to tie in and season several sheepskin bags, and in the process of doing that, 3 seasonings is not unusual. So 4 on this one shouldn't necessarily be considered like the biggest whatever, but you're probably going to go through an entire whatever of seasoning to get the bag airtight if it's anything like my experience. So if picking one of these up, I'd probably pick up 2 of either his own seasoning or the Hardee's Airtight or whatever you're going to use, but I'd have at least 2 tins, containers, or whatever we're calling them these days, of it around, because you're probably going to go through one whole one to get it tight, maybe even a bit more. There you go, everybody. There's a couple of thoughts on a new product on the market, the Hagen Leather Cowhide Bag, but it's been specially tanned to more mimic that of sheep or goat skin. So I don't have a ton of time on it, but the time I have put in, it's worked out really well. It's very comfortable. I like it. Well, thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you got something out of this video, please think about giving it a like, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that bell icon to be notified when I post new videos. I also have a Patreon where as little as $1 a month goes a really long way to help support the channel. You'll see some names scrolling up here of some folks that are contributing monthly to the channel. I'd love to add your name to this list. Consider going over to the Patreon and signing up for that. I also teach Skype and online lessons. Go ahead and head over to www.mattpiper.com or email me at the address you see here, and we'll get you going. I'm working with folks from all over the planet, and I hope to work with you soon. I also have a line of Command Your Bagpipe merchandise where there's t-shirts and hats and mugs and water bottles and pillows, all sorts of things. Check it out. Let the world know that you command your bagpipe. Well, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Again, I'm Matt Willis, and until next time, cheers.